Hey, I never know when this thing is going to come on. Like, is it
pops
going to
on.
come on? Is it not going to come on?
Yeah.
I mean, the little tool thing that they have.
A little.
It stopped working. All of a sudden, it's not there. It's not being offered. I mean, I remember when we lived here before we lived in the villa, they took away that other tool.
Look.
Yeah. They took away that.
You're on this side.
Yeah.
And I'm on that side, and this is opposite.
Yeah.
So is this how you liked it?
I don't know. I mean, it would show me it the other way with the other tool, but it's not there.
It looks like it's doing it automatically now.
Is it?
Yeah, because look at it.
Yeah, I see it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we're a little late today. I know the show normally starts at 4, but life happens, and there are things that we had to do, and it had to be done in the time that we had to do it, so we figured we'd just get the show an hour later. So hopefully it was no big deal for those that like to watch it live, and those that don't like to watch it live get to watch it on demand.
Or maybe it's better to do it at 5 o'clock.
Not really, like it's dinner.
I mean, not for us, but for other people, because it seems like we get more people watching as the hour gets later. Like at 4 o'clock, it doesn't seem as many people are on. Because I don't know.
It depends on dinner.
It's all good.
Anyway, the weather here has been kind of, we had a bit of snow today. Little flurries. Little snow flurries. Little flurries. You compare to other places.
Yeah.
Flurries aren't too bad. But it's cold. It is cold.
I didn't wear gloves today, but it was colder than it's been. But still.
So now I think it's going to get down to 28 degrees or something.
As long as we have that towel right there.
Yeah. We're good. And our heater, which you can hear in the background. So, what did we do this week? What's up with us this week? Let's see here. I'm going to share some of our pictures, and that's part of our little shtick, or whatever that's called.
Our shtick. S-H-T-I-C.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah. I'm Cubano. We had. Actually, this is the 3rd month that we've been doing this. We went to one lady which we didn't like. We didn't like, and then we now. Oh, hi, Teen. How you doing? And then we started going to this other place, which is kind of really quirky name. What is it called?
Curl Up and Die.
Yeah, Curl Up and Die.
But not die in the sense of D-I-E, but die.
Die as in dye your hair.
D-Y-E.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get my hair cut there, and my lovely wife gets her eyebrows done and her nails. Show them your nails. Well, not yet. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you can't really see it because I've got the pictures, but you can see it here. It's a French, whatever they're called. French tip. And what else?
No, wait. You're going to show your haircut?
You can't really see it here.
Oh.
I can't really.
You're going to show your buff bod?
Oh, I am. That's more impressive than my haircut. But this has been our new eating. We've gone back to a fully plant-based, with a lot of wonderful greens.
Oh, I can't say enough good things about eating like this. It's like home.
Yeah.
The other was kind of like the old way of doing things, and now, and for you, it wasn't even the old way. It was foreign to you.
Yeah.
You're like, I never eaten.
No, and then this is what I love. This right here is a delicious plantain. We call, what is it that
you call them?
Tachino, and you call it what?
Well, in Puerto Rico, we call them tostones.
Tostones. We call that too, but we give them that 5 different words for things. But these are really yummy with the sauce that I
made. Super good.
Yeah, and these are like vegan type sausages, which to me taste way better than the regular.
I agree, 100%.
And the nutritional yeast, and then you got some of the gluten-free pasta, and we make our own chips in the air fryer.
So there's no oil.
No, and then ice cream. We make our own ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah, with protein powder and spinach.
Yeah.
I don't know. People would think spinach. Oh my gosh, that's gross. But no, it's awesome.
Yummy. And then we went to our favorite hangout for Sundays, which is Adobe Springs, and they make us a nice sweet pancake there.
Ricky says, "How delicious!"
Hey,
it is
really, really good. And then right here is what we ate. Yeah, that's the pancakes, and we actually put some oatmeal on top of the pancakes.
And that worked really nice.
Yeah, with raisins and.
The waitress actually wanted some. She was like, "Ooh, that looks really good." Actually,
yeah, make our own kind of craziness. But yeah, and then we went to the movies and saw a movie called Coco. Coco, and we usually take pictures right before the movie starts, and we're just making silly faces. It's our duck face there, parking lot type of face, and yeah,
look away,
and that's our smile. Yeah, and I wanted to share my progress. I mean, I've been testosterone free since July of last year, and my body went through a very sickly phase because your body has to adapt. Having no ovaries or anything like that, my body had to adapt with no hormones whatsoever. And, I looked pretty bad.
Beautiful couple, by the way, Chris says.
Thank you, guys. Or Chris, thank you. So that was when the picture on the left is when we did our water fast back in December of 22nd. And I've been training really hard and taking suma root, which is a natural herb that is supposed to increase your natural hormones, whatever hormones your body is producing. And my body must be producing some testosterone from this adaptogen, and it comes all the way from Brazil. And I've actually put on the picture on the left, I was weighing 114 pounds. The picture on the right, I must be like 128, 129 at the moment.
Within a month.
Within a month's time. So, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, here you see on the left, that's how I looked in December. And right here, is what I'm looking at. We took this pictures yesterday. So I'm pretty happy with the results.
I'm really happy with the results. Yeah. It started off for me last week when I was giving you a back massage, and wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and Chris says, wow, very impressive.
Thank you, Chris. But, it's training hard. I'm really pushing myself hard, and I'm trying to eat a lot of carbs. Here's another creation yesterday. This is a plant-based burger that we made with mushrooms, corn, tofu, carrots.
I should click on that picture because it's impressive.
And then we put some
burger.
I made a sauce, and then we put some sweet potatoes with curly type zucchini and some avocado. And then instead of using bread, we used the tortilla, so we called it the Mexican taco.
Mexican taco burger.
Salad. And I made beautiful, delicious, crispy salad. I mean, that's the sauce. And it doesn't have to be boring. It is the most delicious, and really missed it. I really, really did.
I did too. I mean, there's things that I don't ever want to go back to, and eating meat is one of those things.
Yeah, I really feel better, and I feel like my body's really taken off. I was like starting to really wither away. I don't think I've ever gotten this buff with testosterone. I think there was a time when I was taking a bunch, but then I was very sick. My blood pressure was all off and everything else.
And you're just starting.
I'm just starting now.
This is just kind of like the beginning stages. Yeah. I mean, we've only been training hard now for maybe a month now.
I mean, I'm really pushing, lifting, sometimes lifting twice my weight, bench press.
Sometimes when he goes back up, it lifts him up again.
Yeah, sometimes
like the machine and stuff, because you're pulling more than your body weight.
Yeah.
It's really impressive to see.
Hard work.
You're a fighter, for sure.
I definitely, in 2 years' time, I want to be in the best shape ever, and show the world that age is but a number, and that you don't need synthetic hormones to actually achieve the body that you want to achieve, and that you could eat healthily and you could eat a plant-based diet.
And one of the things about testosterone and estradiol, synthetic versions of it, is that it prematurely ages people who take it. And, we're looking at pictures of trans people that have been on the road, the journey as you have for such a long time. And, people that are names that people recognize, they are very, very much being affected by the negative elements of synthetic hormones, and that is that it will dry your skin out, your body out.
Your hair.
It does things that you would never. You're not told. You're not being told these things. Your doctor, they don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're not checking.
No,
they're not holding any records or anything of people. They just like shove them in, shove them out, shove them in, shove them out, and it's
And I was determined to do this the natural way because I did not want to go back on any synthetics. And I mean, I know for me, it's the Suma that I'm on, Suma Root. It's amazing. And I think another thing we need to give a lot of credit to is intermittent fasting, which means we eat our last meal usually around our last snack, because we try to do breakfast like around 1 o'clock, and we have our dinner like around 7, and then we have a snack before we go to bed with green tea. And then we don't eat again till 1. So we go a 12-hour span without eating and work out on an empty stomach, which increases your growth hormone, which more growth hormone you have, the more muscle you build, the younger you stay. I mean, it has a lot of great benefits. And I contribute a lot of the success, not just to the herbs that we're on, but to the intermittent fasting as well.
There's a message from Chris that you can read it.
Well, thank you for your input on hawthorn berry. I've transitioned from taking 60 milligrams propanol to hawthorn berry, and my blood pressure has been normal. Yeah, I've been using that even when I was on testosterone back in the day. And especially in the beginning, my blood pressure shot up so badly. And, my ears used to get red. I used to get the sounds in my ear. My blood pressure would go 180, 190 over 100 and something. And I was determined to do it naturally because I didn't want to go on blood pressure medication. Hawthorn berry normalized it.
But you were taking lots of tea at that time, weren't you?
In the beginning, yes. Yeah. I was like crazily.
Chris says, me too.
Awesome. It's hawthorn berry. I mean, people don't realize herbs, they work. I mean, I know you're happy with all your natural stuff. Your saw palmetto, what's the other one? Fenugreek. And
fenugreek and red clover.
Yeah.
And I'm using a breast pump thing. Yeah. Things like, these things that people want who are transitioning, they don't come overnight.
No, they don't. Not even with the synthetic stuff. I mean,
the synthetic was just drying me out.
Yeah.
I don't think I do well with anything that's synthetic.
No. No one really does. I mean, synthetic, the body just doesn't recognize it.
I mean, if you're younger, possibly age doesn't affect you.
It does. Remember, we watched videos with, like, was it a 20-something-year-old that was on it? And for the first 2 years, it was fine. And after that, it was like revenge. Depression came back really threefold. Anxiety. Wasn't seeing much changes after the 2 years. And then, it's like your receptors get saturated. And then instead of it doing good, it starts to do you harm, because it's like revenge of, I don't know, revenge of something. But
if we could encourage anybody out there that is wanting to transition or considering it, not to do it with synthetics, it would be a real boost for us in being able to help somebody avoid the pitfalls of like short-term gains for long-term losses, because it really does not work out at the end of the day when you are, after you did everything, to realize that your body's falling apart, your body's breaking apart, your body is now your enemy. It's never a good thing,
And you have to balance it out. And if you are going to do it, my suggestion, or our suggestion, is get in and get out. Do it for a couple of years. More than that, you're not going to get much more benefit, because the body, there's only so much change you could actually do, whether you're an MTF or an FTM. I think 2 years is probably a good marker, and then just switch to herbals and natural route. If you're an FTM, go in, go out, do whatever you got to do for 2 years, then just go on. There's a lot of natural stuff, like, the Suma, there's just a bunch of testosterone boosters out there. I didn't like what I read in the other one, so I stuck with the Suma. And then work out, eat right. you know, and you're going to maintain. I mean, my facial hair is not going to fall off. Some of my body hair has fallen off, but you know, it's not. I still have some of my chest hair. I'm not as hairy, which I'm glad because I didn't like all that excess amount of hair.
You were bare.
I was
good,
way
yeah.
too hairy. I mean, my arms, everything was just so hairy. So now I'm fine. I mean, it's like, you know, enough. I don't have to be some gorilla, you know, and so.
I mean, for me, it's like the benefits that we've had here now since July of just living our life, not stressing out over the small stuff. You know, there was one moment when we were on our journey where it was like we were in Montana at at a campground, and we were injecting in the car.
Yeah, I hated it.
I mean, we were injecting in the back of our Prius.
Yeah, I hated it.
And it was dangerous.
Yeah.
Not only dangerous, but it was a pain in the butt.
Literally. And then, you know, it's like you didn't have a sterile environment because you're out and whatever. And it's like I even got really cut really bad opening one of your vials, which is like the scene of a scary movie type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad
it was bad. Well, Chris, Ricky, Rex, did you feel like when you stopped taking tea that your body went into menopause?
I have gone through menopause several times. I had a hysterectomy back in 2003, and I was 38 years old when I transitioned. I had a top surgery and hysterectomy at the same time. That was massive menopause, hot flashes. And then I went through times, even being on testosterone, where I would sweat a lot. Remember, at 9 I would get these massive night sweats, and the body was just not, you know, I don't know, it wasn't acting right. And this time around, because I've stopped tea several times because I've known that I've had to. It's like the receptors get saturated. This time around, I felt from taking DHEA, which I've talked about this in past shows, that my blood pressure went up. It just, you know, I was trying to take something natural to create some sort of hormones. My body did not like DHEA, and I went through a really rough patch, and I started losing a lot of weight and feeling really sick. Till recently, you know, with the hawthorn berry and the suma and the training and things like that, that I'm starting to normalize. I'm starting to feel really good.
And I think that what really helps is when we are able to isolate those things that stress us out, and we're able to work on those things, and we're able to get peace back into our lives and not obsess over so many things. Like, I mean, I used to obsess over my facial hair. I used to obsess over my body hair. I used to obsess about, you know, so many things. And now it's like, you know, you take what you can get and then you move on. If you can't change things, it doesn't help you one bit to try to make it a daily stressful event to focus on.
That kills you. I mean, then it doesn't matter how healthy you eat or how much you work out. Stress is going to end up killing you. That's the biggest killer. And, you know, as far as menopause, I think individuals after the age of 50, I mean, those menopausal type of feelings tend to go away. Because, I mean, I don't have night sweats anymore. I don't, you know, I sleep very soundly. You know, I really, my body has regulated itself.
And we've been incorporating the use of green tea and stuff like that into our nightly ritual, so that I think that helps us sleep longer.
Really better.
Because I used to wake up earlier in the past, but I think it's helping.
And most people think green tea, oh my God, you can't drink that at night. It's going to keep you up. Well, the research I've done proves otherwise. It actually benefits you from drinking that at night. And we find it's been working for us really, really nicely. And it helps you repair. And it's just something that's really, really good. We definitely enjoy it. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, when we went on our keto fad diet, we ate a lot of bacon. And most people think that bacon is good for you. You know, pork, the other white meat, that kind of lie they tell us. Well, actually, it's a bad day for bacon because processed meat has been known to cause cancer, according to the World Health Organization. And it's deemed it a no-no, you know, such as bacon, sausage, hot dogs. All these processed meats can cause cancer. Processed and red meat could cause cancer. A lot of people ask, is that really so? Well, in addition to WHO says, red meat, including beef, pork, veal, and lamb, are probably carcinogenic to people. A group of 22 scientists reviewed the evidence linking red meat and processed meat consumption to cancer and concluded that eating processed meat regularly increased the risk of colorectal cancer, which your dad died of, and their evidence reviews is explained in an article published in The Lancet.
We evolved to eat meat, but how much is too much? The conclusion puts processed meats in the same category risk of cancer as tobacco smoking and asbestos. And we know those two things are horrible for your health. I remember seeing an exhibit. It was the body, I think it was. I think they traveled all around the country.
Okay.
And it was like, showing bones and, like, remember it was like this exhibit that showcased the body.
Right.
And there were like people that had, there were like lungs there, and they showed a healthy lung and a lung that had died from like lung cancer. It was black.
Yeah.
It was absolutely black.
I've actually seen that when I was taking my cadaver class in occupational therapy school, and they actually showed us lungs that were cancer lungs, all black. I mean, it's just disgusting. You would look at a healthy lung, even though it's dead, clear, and then you would look at the other one, and actually, you could see a massive difference. And it's not a good thing.
This does not mean that they are equally dangerous, says the International Agency for Research on Cancer. The agency within the World Health Organization sets the classifications. And it's important to note that even things such as aloe vera are on the list of possible carcinogens.
Oh, interesting. In a Q&A released by the IARC, the agency says that eating meat has known health benefits, but it also points out that the cancer risk increases with the amount of meat consumed, as we reported. Studies show that the heaviest meat eaters tend to have the highest risk.
I think it's important to understand, though, that the only reason that eating meat could remotely be possibly even anything close to being healthy is because the animals may have eaten other things that were nutritious at the time. And those nutrients that come from the soil, come from the ground, those may be ingested in with the meat that you're eating, but the meat itself cancels out any of the health benefits.
Well, because you're eating something that's pretty dead, that's been processed, that has gone through a very tragic lifespan for your consumption. And I think that in itself, it's like eating suffering, and then the cooking. I mean, a lot of the way people cook meat creates carcinogenics in itself. Barbecuing, people like burned, charred meats, and that's not good.
Death by bacon. Study finds eating meat is risky. The IARC says high-temperature cooking methods, such as cooking meat in direct contact with a flame, like the place we went to for that steak dinner on my birthday, produce more carcinogenic compounds. However, the group said that there were not enough data to reach a conclusion about whether the meat is cooked affects the risk of cancer. Of course, they're going to say that because they want to cover their butt. We have a friend of ours who is now in stage 4 of lymphoma cancer, and he is being told that he should not have a cell phone on his body because of the risk of the radiation that comes from the phone. Now, as an American public, we're not being told that.
No.
They say, they don't say anything. No. But for a person who's dying of cancer, it's risky. So if that's the case, it's like the same thing goes to this. It's like they're going to say what they want to say because they want people, and they want people to eat it. They want people to pay for it.
Definitely. Well, Susan Gabster of the American Cancer Society says the society recommends consuming a healthy diet with the emphasis on plant foods and limiting consumption of processed meat and red meat. She told us in a written statement.
The recommendation, Gabster tells the SALT, is based on research. For instance, a systematic literature review on colorectal cancer published in 2011 by the World Cancer Research Fund, found a statistically significant 16% increased risk of colorectal cancer associated with each 3.5 ounces of red and processed meat consumed per day. I don't know about you, but 3.5 ounces of red meat is not much meat. I mean, it's not even a handful.
Most people eat a lot more than that.
As the ACS points out, this is an amount of risk assessment of meat roughly equivalent in size to a deck of cards. Okay, we're talking like that,
yeah.
Right?
In this new evaluation, the IRC offered a different risk assessment, and it concluded that eating about 1.8 ounces of processed meat daily will increase the risk of colorectal cancer by about 18%. We should know we're talking relatively risk here, and the chances of developing colorectal cancer are fairly low to begin with.
Oh, we have Nicole Johnson joining us. She says, "Hi, Lena. Hi, Mark. Glad I get to watch you guys tonight."
Hey, Nicole. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for being here. Salami suicide, processed meats linked to heart disease and cancer. The Lancet paper points out that red meat also contains, quote, high biological value proteins and important micronutrients such as B vitamins, iron, and zinc, unquote. And the North American Meat Institute says lots of research points to the benefits of red meat consumption.
Scientific evidence shows cancer is a complex disease not caused by single foods, and that a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle choices are essential to good health, writes Barry Carpenter, president of the North American Meat Institute, in a statement on the new WHO classification.
Carpenter says it's important to put this new classification in context. Quote, IARC's panel was given the basic task of looking at hazards that meat could pose at some level under circumstance, but was not asked to consider any offsetting benefits like the nutrition that meat delivers or the implications of drastically reducing or removing meat from the diet altogether. The statement concludes. Now, these are people who are the president of the North Institute. Where does he get his funding from? Where do they get their money from? From cattle companies.
Exactly.
Big meat industry.
It's a big industry, you know, and
trillions of dollars,
and
not billions, trillions.
They're worried because people are becoming more health conscious. People are drinking almond milk, cocoa milk, beverages that are not being allowed to call milk because dairy, you know, suing them for doing that, or trying to say you can't use the name milk. These companies are worried that their businesses are going down, but they know that it's not great. It's not good for you. That it's not the ideal nutrition for human beings. And but I think instead of ramming this down people's throats, people will eventually, as they get sick, as they start seeing the effects of their bodies, how they age quicker, how they become very fatigued. I mean, I know how I felt in the month that we were consuming all this stuff. Yeah, it was like I had no energy. I couldn't sleep right at night. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I mean, the list was a mile long, and it wasn't anything positive. So Nicole said something like that.
She says, I took you guys up on drinking green tea.
Awesome. Awesome. I love green tea. I really love it.
I'm learning that tea is good.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, there's 10 myths about eating fruit. 10.
Now, is this an article that we found when we were?
No, this is a good. No, this is a good. This is proving that fruits are good.
Okay.
So I'm literally shocked by the amount of confusion around nutrition that exists in the natural movement, especially the confusion surrounding a particular issue with eating fruit. People, I remember back in the day when I had my gym, and I would prescribe in the diet for people to eat a certain amount of fruit. Some people are so afraid of fruit, like, oh no, my God, it's going to make me fat. Well, it can make you fat, especially if you improperly combine the fruit or if you're eating a lot of fats in your diet, then that sugar kind of like lays in your bloodstream and it creates spikes and it creates fat production and fat storage and it could be a major mess. So the key is knowing how to properly combine your foods, how to eat them, eliminate the excess amount of fat, keep it low fat. Food has universally been recognized as the healthiest food there is, yet it also is one of the natural food that's vilified the most by many trends of natural health and raw food movements. This, of course, started with the dangerous low carb trend, which would like you to believe that eating slabs of butter on grilled steaks is actually healthier than eating the natural sugar in fruit.
This unscientific trend has also been picked up by the largest proportion of the raw food theorists, many of which go to the extreme of saying that eating lots of sweet fruit is actually unnatural and unhealthy.
I mean, how can eating something that grows in the tree be unnatural and unhealthy?
Even the popular Hippocrates Health Institute has launched a fear campaign on eating fruit, claiming that fruit eating is responsible for the common health problems experienced by the majority of raw foodists. Is that the person
Yeah, like
that we were reading about
Brian, whatever,
in Florida?
Florida. Yeah, he tends to believe that people should be eating more greens and more vegetables than fruits. And to give the guy credit because he's a pretty smart man, Brian something or another, I forgot his name now. There are people that may have an adverse reaction because they have metabolic syndrome, because they have candidas, because there's all sorts of things. So it's one of those per individual basis. I truly believe. It would not be an exaggeration to say that a lot of people in the raw movements are actually scared of eating fruit, literally scared. So let's take a look at the most common statements made about fruit and bust them once and for all.
Number one, eating too much fruit will cause symptoms of blood sugar problems. It's no secret that a proper healthy raw food diet contains a lot of fruit. In fact, the quantity of fruit that I consume in one single day probably exceeds the quantity consumed by an average family on a weekly, if not monthly, basis.
When people look at all that fruit, they suddenly afraid that eating so much of it will cause them health problems. The most common being cited is blood sugar issues. And again, it can if you are eating that amount of fruit that a fruitarian would eat and would end up eating a lot of fat. Because then you're like not really allowing your body to properly process this. So buyers beware. Fruit is great, but you got to know how to combine it, how to eat it. And if you're not an active individual and you're sitting around all day and consuming that amount of sugar, because whatever it is of sugar, then there can be problems.
Like we're talking combining a date with an avocado.
Mm-hmm. We saw that he had the guy, it was called a fruitarian runner or something. He got very sick, and this guy would like buy boxes and boxes of fruit, and he would eat. He was only like 5'4" or something like that, and probably weighed 120 pounds, soaking wet. And he would eat a lot of fruit, but then he would try to combine. I mean, and he learned the hard way that you can't.
Well, on a run,
or even within on the run. Yeah, even not on the run. I mean, you don't want to mix fat. I mean, the 80-10-10 diet thrives on the fact that you want to keep. It's got to be a low-fat diet.
Yeah.
With high carbs.
That's the secret.
Yeah, it's the same concept with this keto. You're doing a high fat, but you got to keep your carbs low, or you're gonna get fat, and you're gonna get sick, and you're gonna get all sorts of problems. So I've known many people who are absolutely convinced that whenever they eat a lot of sweet fruits, their blood sugar goes out of whack. Their interpretation of what is happening to them is often getting suddenly energy followed by a blood sugar crash.
In other words, they compare their body's response to eating fruit to a common response to stimulants, such as alcohol or caffeine, a sudden stimulation followed by a depressed, quote-unquote, recovery state. In reality, in a fairly healthy individual, blood sugar will remain stable no matter how much fruit is eaten. in a fairly healthy individual.
That's the name of the game, fairly healthy.
I have tested this myself by testing my blood sugar throughout the day and found that it didn't matter how many bananas I ate. My blood sugar remained normal throughout the day.
And I would have to say that a person has to teach their body this. It's like a person that's never ran, all of a sudden decides they're going to run 5 miles, they're going to croak over and die. But if you train yourself to run 5 miles, maybe nothing. I think the same thing happens when you train your body. Like when I was a raw food vegan and I ate mostly fruit, I trained my body to handle this loads and loads amount of sugars. And my blood sugars, I tested, was normal. But it took me a while to get there, because you have to train your body.
In fact, even when I eat more than 20 bananas in a day, which I do regularly, my blood sugar stays absolutely normal, just like you said.
Steve Pavlina, who's a professional author and speaker and whose website is one of the most visited on the web, did a 30-day trial of 100% low-fat, fruit-based raw food diet. During these 30 days, he recorded every single meal he ate. He also monitored closely his blood sugar, weight, blood pressure, and other key stats. Here's what he had to say about the effects of eating fruit on his blood sugar.
I monitored my blood sugar using a blood sugar testing device, the same kind that diabetics may use. It showed no discernible spikes in blood sugar throughout the trial whatsoever. Absolutely none. In fact, my blood sugar remained incredibly steady throughout the trial. My highest blood sugar reading of the trial was 94, which is still medium low. All that sweet fruit in my diet simply did not have any adverse effect on my blood sugar. Eating this way gave my blood sugar more consistency than ever. I couldn't spike my blood sugar on this diet if I even tried. Even after eating 19 bananas in one day, it made no difference.
And like the key here, again, that if you would have been eating a bunch of nuts or a bunch of oils, that would have changed, because then the blood sugar, what happens when you have it's like your body becomes very professed in dealing with the blood sugar and doing with it what it needs to be done. If you're eating the oils and the other stuff, it's in the bloodstream. And that's when the pancreas freaks out and starts to send a bunch of insulin. And that's when the blood sugar readings go wacko. Right. Dr. Graham, author of the book, The 80-10-10 Diet, also told me that whenever people came to him thinking that their blood sugar was out of balance due to sweet fruit consumption, they were found to have perfectly normal blood sugar after being tested. That being said, I think that it's still possible for some people to experience a negative reaction from eating sweet fruit. However, it's not the fruit that has to be blamed in this case, but their overall diet, which is too high in fat. The situation is best explained in the book Breaking the Food Seduction by Dr. Neil Bernard, MD.
Quote, it may surprise you to know that you can actually change your body's response to any food so that you're better able to handle whatever sugars it might contain. Marjorie was one of our research volunteers. In a laboratory test, we asked her to drink a syrup containing 75 grams of pure sugar. Taking blood samples over the next 2 hours, we saw what happened to her blood sugar. It peaked at about 30 minutes, then quickly cascaded downward. That's a pretty typical pattern. If your blood sugar falls too precipitously, you may be set up for another binge, which is your body's way of bringing your blood sugar back up again.
Here's the problem. Insulin is the hormone that escorts sugar from your bloodstream into the cells of the body. It is like a doorman who turns the knob on the door to each cell, helps sugar go inside, and then closes the door. But everything changes when you eat fatty foods or when you gain a significant amount of weight. Insulin can't work in an oil slick. When there is too much fat in the bloodstream, insulin's hand slips on the knob, unable to open the door to the cells. Insulin lets sugar build up in the blood. Your body's response by making more and more insulin, and eventually it'll get the sugar into the cell.
Cutting fat from your meals improves what is called insulin sensitivity, meaning that insulin efficiently escorts sugar into the cells of the body. With our guidance, Marjorie adjusted her diet to scrupulously cut fat and boost fiber. A few weeks later, we repeated the test. She drank exactly the same sugar solution, but the changes in her blood sugar were very different. Because the low fat diet had tuned up her insulin, the blood sugar was more muted, the peak was lower, and the fall was gentler than before. In our clinical studies, we have found that simple diet changes alone boost insulin sensitivity by an average of 24%, and it can increase even more if you also exercise.
And that's the name of the game. Exercise, low-fat diet, then you could up the amount of fruit, the amount of carbs that you're eating. You won't get fat. You'll feel energized. Efficient machine. And that's what we found when we were, you know, we just started doing the high carb thing and we felt great and we were running and we were doing all sorts of stuff. So again, food has been blamed for a problem and did not cause. In most cases, people who think they have blood sugar spikes have in fact perfectly normal blood sugar. And in the few cases, when they truly are not handling the sweet fruit, they eat properly, their high fat diet is to blame, not the fruit. Number two, diabetics should not eat fruit. It's another fallacy. What about diabetes? Should diabetics avoid fruit altogether, or should they not worry about it? Well, again, it's best to look at the roots of the problem rather than analyze it superficially.
Fruit eating does not cause diabetes. Diabetes is actually caused by a high-fat diet, combined with other factors, some possibly genetic, that will cause reduced insulin sensitivity. While type 1 diabetes occurs early in life and is rarely reversible, type 2 is simply an acute form of insulin resistance or reduced insulin sensitivity. This type is completely reversible when the root of the problem is addressed in time.
If you want to improve your body's response to the natural sugar in fruit and all of the food you eat for that matter, all you have to do is improve your insulin sensitivity by doing the following. Reduce your body fat to a healthy level. Eat a high fiber diet, or should we say an adequate fiber diet. Eat a low fat diet, 10% or less total calories. Exercise regularly and favor cardio types of exercise. No, I disagree on that one. And avoid animal foods. You have to increase your muscle mass in order, and add cardio and work your weight training into what we do is circuit type training, and avoid animal foods. A lot of these raw vegans are really into like running, and then they look like skeletons. But yeah.
These recommendations endorsed by many health professionals with extensive experience healing with diabetes naturally, Furman, McDougall, Ornish, Bernard, etc., are actually perfectly compatible with a high fruit, low fat diet. Most diabetics I know have done incredibly well on a fruit-based diet, as long as it's a low-fat one, by reducing dramatically the quantity of insulin they have to take, or eliminating it altogether.
The problem of diabetes should be addressed by looking at the roots of the problem, rather than superficially claiming that sweet fruit will only exacerbate it. You should pay attention to all the important factors that can improve insulin sensitivity. The main ones being a low-fat diet, regular exercise, low body fat, and a raw food diet. Or at least a high-starch, plant-based diet.
Number 3, and this is one that confused us for a while.
Yeah.
Fruit causes candida. It seems like every other person I meet in the raw food movement has issues with candida. Usually the main culprit blamed is sweet fruit. The question remains whether they actually have a real overgrowth of the yeast, Candida albicans, or not. I'm personally very skeptical of the self-diagnosis that most Candida sufferers come up with. In most cases, I believe they are simply showing symptoms of a diet that doesn't work, whether it's related to Candida or not.
The real problem with Candida is once you're convinced of the problem, you generally follow what is called the Candida diet, which we actually try to do, which does exactly what it claims in its name. It gives you more Candida. It's funny that they don't call it the anti-Candida diet, but the Candida diet. When you analyze the diet, you will find yet another variation of the medical model for dieting: elimination of carbohydrates and increased fat and protein. Fortunately for the promoters of this diet, these recommendations actually cause your Candida to stay for a long time. Elimination of sugar might control some of the symptoms, but the root of the problem is being fed with every meal. And that's what we noted, and that's what we were getting sicker.
Issues with candida are easily solved once you understand the concept of insulin sensitivity and realize how a high-fat diet actually contributes to elevated blood sugar, which will in turn feed the candida yeast. Again, it's that dormant thing that the insulin slips on the door and can't let the sugar out to the cells.
Yeah. Can't allow the door to open so that the sugar goes inside the cell. Every food that you eat will be transformed to sugar to feed the cells. The word sugar has been slandered so much that some people seem to be afraid to have sugar run in their bloodstream at any time. But without blood sugar, your cells will die, and your muscles and brain function will stop working. And I find, I'm seeing, when we up the carbs, my strength came back. My muscles have been, it's incredible.
Your goal should be to keep your blood sugar stable and normal and not let the sugar accumulate in the blood. It should be swiftly escorted to the cells when they need it. And the way to do that is to simply improve your insulin sensitivity.
So the anti-candida diet is quite counterintuitive, but addresses the root of the problems, not the superficial symptoms. On this program, you will eliminate any overly fatty foods from your diet, such as oils, avocados, nuts, and seeds, for a period of several weeks or months. You'll also pay attention to the other factors I've mentioned that can improve your insulin sensitivity.
And if you're afraid of going on a no-fat diet, remember that all fruits and vegetables contain a tiny but sufficient percentage of fat, enough to meet your basic needs. 4, eating too much fruit, especially bananas, will have you overdose on potassium.
And that's the biggest lie. I was trying to, back when I was raw vegan, I took a blood test, and I was eating a ton of bananas a day. And I told that to the doctor, and he saw how lean I was and skinny. He was all worried. Everything came back normal. My potassium was normal. I used to eat sometimes 15, 20 bananas a day.
It's important to make the difference between artificial supplemental potassium, K, and the naturally occurring potassium in fruits. The FDA does not allow a supplement to contain more than 99 milligrams of potassium, as we found out.
Yep.
And injecting yourself with 200 milligrams of artificial potassium can rush you to the hospital. But 3 bananas containing up to 1,200 milligrams of natural potassium, which will not cause any negative symptoms.
There's really no point of fear any potassium overdose, even when eating a fair number of bananas. Research done on wild monkeys showed that they eat over 6,500 milligrams of potassium per day. It would take over 15 bananas to eat as much potassium as they do. Plus, wild monkeys are much smaller in size than we are. So we could eat even more bananas and not even reach a potassium intake of a monkey on a daily basis. What is that, 30 bananas a day? How many people have done that, when they go into this raw food, vegetarian lifestyle? Because bananas are cheaper than other fruits and easy accessible. Yeah, exactly. So, I got to a point. I was doing the 30 banana a day for a while,
I have previously stated in my e-zine that early humans consumed 40 times as much potassium as sodium. It makes sense because we lose potassium a lot faster than sodium. The quote-unquote official recommendations by nutritionists are to eat more potassium and less sodium. Even standard nutritionists agree that most people do not eat enough potassium and that they ideally should consume close to 5,000 milligrams per day and even more for active people.
And that's natural occurring. To me, you can't take a supplementation, whether synthetic or natural, and expect the body to respond correctly. But if you're eating the foods that have these components, your body knows what to do with it. There's, you can't really OD on bananas. You can't OD on carrots. You can't, it's like, how much to eat. Your body lets you know, and I think that's the best way to really guide anything.
Kind of like why we threw away our whole macro counting, concept. It's just stressing us out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I have too many carbs. I can't have a banana in my sandwich or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like, no, just eat, and when you're full, stop eating.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Number 5, they say in the Hypocrisy Center that fruit causes cancer. Every single week, it seems like a new anti-cancer antioxidant is discovered in some fruit or vegetable. In fact, if you really do some research on the subject, you will find overwhelming evidence linking fruit eating to reduce incidence of cancer. The American Cancer Association also recommends to increase your fruit consumption. So it's beyond me how some knucklehead naturopath could make the outrageous claim that eating sweet fruit can cause cancer or that cancer patients should avoid it completely. Because somewhere down the line, I think they mistake table sugar, which is synthetic, which the body doesn't like, with feeding cancer cells. But fruit is natural occurring. The body knows what to do with that.
And has for millions of years.
Exactly.
The theory is that since cancer cells feed on sugar, cancer patients should avoid fruit to make sure those cells don't grow out of control. Obviously, they don't realize that blood glucose can be created by any food you eat. Even if you avoid sweet fruit but eat more protein or fat, those nutrients will be converted to glucose and fed to the cells. So what's the solution? Not eat anything at all and waste away? Again, it's best to address the root of the problem. Does eating fruit cause cancer? If it did, how many scientific studies can you cite that have linked sweet fruit consumption to increased risk of cancer, incidence of cancer? You haven't heard of these studies simply because they don't exist.
They don't. And it's, we found that a lot of these research papers, they alter it or they make it sound a certain way to scare people when they're lying, completely lying. And I think that they're doing people an injustice. I mean, I understand, proper food combination. I'm talking about. If you're going to eat fruit, then you have to keep the fat percentage low.
Right.
Because then you get yourself into trouble. If you're just eating a high carb diet, you're eating rice, you're eating pasta, you're eating potatoes, you're eating your fruit, and the majority of the fruit should be consumed, in my opinion, during the earlier part of the day when you're more active or when you just finish a workout and your body's just absorbing all that. Nighttime would not be very smart to eat a bunch of fruit because you'll be bouncing up the wall at night, because it's still it's a lot of sugar, that you're putting in. So it's okay to add some oranges in your salad, some papaya. I used to love using papaya in my night salad when I was raw vegan. And, it's listening to your body. It's common sense in a lot of ways, but, a lot of raw vegans get themselves into trouble. And we've seen them, they make all these like really nut-based salad dressings or nut-based desserts, and then they want to eat a ton of fruit. That doesn't work.
Yeah, because you got all that high fat going on, like the cacao and all the different types of nut butters and cashews and and it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
And we've seen some of these individuals like David Wolf, who was originally started off as a pretty lean guy. He loves his avocados and he loves his fruit and he loves his cacao, and we've seen that he doesn't look as healthy as he did before. Another one's Christina, what's her name?
Raw food, Christina.
Raw Christina started out pretty slim, and she's not as slim anymore. And I think it's because she probably uses a lot of nut butters and nut-based foods.
And just because that's a vegan item, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the best for you, because we all know that now that if you consume large quantities of fruit, that it would not be a good thing for you to consume large amounts of fat with that.
Yeah, of course. And you've got to monitor it.
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And fats are sneaky. I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, what you got to do is, whatever, let's say you're eating 3,000 calories a day, well, only 10% of those 3,000 calories can come from fat. Because if you go higher than that, then that's how you mess up the transport of sugar, and you're going to have it in your bloodstream, and it's not going to go into the cell, and that's going to make you fat, and it's going to make you sick, and it can make you diabetic because you have all that sugar in your bloodstream. If the sugar is not being utilized in the powerhouse of the cell, and it's in your bloodstream, then there's problems.
If you have an oil slick going on inside your arteries, your sugar is going to stay stuck inside the vessels and fat.
Exactly. We've been watching I Am Jazz, and very interesting the last episode that we watched.
Yeah, it was really kind of a eye-opener. I mean, there's going to be a new one today.
Yeah.
But it was season finale.
I think it's a season finale. Yeah.
But we just caught a little glimpse of the ad for the show last week, and then we watched the whole show. But there's so much that people don't understand about transgender people that it would really benefit them to, instead of judging, to actually look into what is going on with people and to have compassion rather than throw judgment at people for doing something or being something that they would never want to be, or that they're too scared to even attempt to be.
Exactly. And this episode that we watched last week, Jazz has been having issues with food. You know, she likes to eat, and she's gained a lot of weight, and she's trying to have her sex reassignment surgery, or what's it called now?
Gender confirmation surgery.
But Dr. Powers won't do the surgery unless she loses 30 pounds and drops her BMI. And that's smart because, you know, going on their knife is a risk if you are normal weight. When you're overweight, you're adding more risk factors. Mm-hmm. So Jazz is starting to go to this hypnotherapist, who's really making good leeway, because when you go to a hypnotherapist, they could go even into deeper parts of you from your past lives. I read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, which really opened up my eyes on the fact that this is not the only life you have. We reincarnate, and it makes sense. You come back, you learn, you didn't learn your lessons, you come back again. And you have different lessons, you actually learn the challenges and the lessons and evolve. Well, explain to them what this hypnotherapist revealed in Jazz, for those who haven't watched the episode.
Well, basically, Jazz went under, basically, and was in that session where they visited a past life that they lived, and apparently Jazz used to be a guy named Cal, who was gay, and the mother and father caught Cal with his boyfriend, and basically disowned him and kicked him out of the house for being gay. And Cal lived with that pain for the rest of his life of losing his family and being ostracized and stuff and feeling hated. And, you know, these are things that now affect life for Jazz in the body that Jazz has now, in the gender expression that Jazz is living now.
And hungry for acceptance. You know, there was just hunger for acceptance. And it's in this life now, that hunger for acceptance has evolved itself from hunger of food and never feeling satisfied, never feeling full, and finding comfort in food, which I know many of you have probably deal with these types of issues, that you don't feel worthy, you don't feel good enough, and food becomes your friend. Food becomes comfort. Food can hurt you in your mind. That's how we feel. And so there are so many things that people really don't understand about gender confusion, gender misalignment, whatever we want to call it, you know. And we ourselves, you know, because of the battles that we had dealt with our own families and our own lack of acceptance, and then trying to be accepted, you know, turned against a community that I, for one, you know, identified with for a very long time. And, you know, it's hard. It's a hard thing to deal with, you know, because you're trying to, what's the word, appease family, you're trying to appease society, you're trying to, you have battles in your own heads, you know, with things that, and I think it's important that people become a little more compassionate and open up their hearts and try to understand that this is not black or white.
It's really not. And, just people are dealing with possibly issues that trigger back to a possible past life. I mean, I know that sounds really out there for a lot of people, especially those in the Christian community who would look at that and say that it's demonic or something. But, you guys don't know everything. You think you do, but you might not be right about this. You might be wrong. And choosing to love is always a good thing. I mean, it's always the better thing to do. And, not throwing judgment at people is a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. And trying to understand, like the other day on one of my on my news feed, one of my friends shared a video on this. I don't know, she was some sort of medical professional, maybe a psychiatrist, or I don't know exactly what her title was, but she was very anti the trans identity with children and what the parents are doing. And you know what? Yes, medical intervention is abusive in many ways because it really breaks down your natural state of being, and it's scary because it damages you. So yes, I think people should put the brakes on doing all these medical procedures and without really knowing the full scope. And one needs to really be of sound mind and of sound age to make certain decisions. But the way this person was referring to trans individuals, comparing us with delusional people that want to cut their limbs off, and just a slew of very contradictory statement, really created an angst in me because it's like, well, this person is trying to be helpful, but they're not being helpful. They're being judgmental and hurtful.
And, that is something that people need to really look at. I mean, there's a lot of people dealing with these issues. There's more than 1%, 1.7% of the population that are dealing with these things. And for a way for you to understand how widespread this issue is that all you have to do is look at the current youth of today and how they respond and how they react generally to gender non-conforming people. I mean, we still pretty much have this gender binary that we want to live in, but the upcoming generation, they don't see those lines anymore. They don't see that. They just see people and they don't see gender as much as our generation did and do. And, I think that for you to take a pulse on what's happening, look at the youth, look at how their ideas are forming and how their society is going to look in the future. And you'll see that gender isn't as critical as it seems to be to this generation.
And I think one of the reasons that is because when they see themselves and they see that they don't fit in that gender box that they would like to fit in, then they just want to eradicate gender altogether. I think with me, it's like, one of the things that I learned through this whole 3 years of transition, and all that stuff is that I like who I am. I like the masculine energy that I engulf, that I what's the word?
Man.
Yeah, and it's anything else to me is just doesn't feel natural. And this is me. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be anybody else. And just the strength, the challenges, whatever it is. And I know a lot of people say, well, there are women that are strong. And it's like, well, that's fine and dandy. But for me personally, I feel very comfortable in my masculine expression and in the man that I feel that I am. And a lot of people may say, well, you're not a man. And they might have whatever views they might have. And that's fine. That's their views. But I have to go and live my life the way my heart sees fit, the way that I feel comfortable presenting myself when I walk out the door. The way that my mind and my heart emits, it's all Mark Angelo Cummings, the man.
And we're not living anyone else's life. We're just living our life. And as a married couple, this is how we choose to live our life. And, nobody else lives our life. We do. And people that were trying to influence our life and to change it, they don't even see us. They don't even visit us. They don't even know who we are. So for those people that think that they would have any sway in telling us how to be, I mean, it doesn't really take anything to just be. I mean, it's like that's a verb, that's a condition, a state of being. It's just being. I mean, how can you tell someone to be any way?
Other
You
than who they
can't.
are, yeah.
You can't. You can't dictate someone's beingness, because that's who they are. I mean, it's like that's what a person is. So for someone to think that they can influence someone's being, state of being, is absolute ridiculous. That's delusional thinking. To think that you can take someone else's state of being and make it into some state of being that you want them to be in, it makes no sense.
So yeah, I think it's important that people be truthful to themselves, to the world, and you know, learn that you can't please everybody. And that was the lesson that I learned in the past 3 years. And I'm returning to me. I'm returning to the person that I've always been from the time I came out of my mother's womb. Person that my family, my mother, and everybody else try to squish away and try to make something they're not. And I mean, it's easy for me to be me, even now without testosterone, and just be natural and just emitting that spiritual sense of who I am, and that's the message that I want to put out there. Everyone feels that they're wrong for being who they are. Be you, and don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong. Take care of yourself, love yourself, feed yourself right, exercise, sleep right, put all the right things in your body, and visualize that person that you are inside, so that you can be set forth in the image that you portray. So
That's really it. Just be you. Don't let anyone tell you how to be. Just do you, be you, and make no apologies to anyone. Don't look behind your shoulder and and consider what they have to think or what they want, because at the end of the day, you're living your life, and they will come and they will go. People on the internet, social media influences, people on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, they come and go. And don't let them influence you. Don't let them hurt you. Don't let their comments affect you in any emotional way. Don't let them take away from you being you, because that's all you can be. Is you. Is you.
and don't let the hurtful words get under your skin. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard when people call you names and people don't see you. But every day that you see yourself, every day that you become stronger in yourself, the rest of the world will see you as you see yourself. And that's just a matter of just being confident, a matter of not worrying about what other people think of you, because people think doesn't matter. And just continue to love yourself, continue to put the right things in your body so that your body can flourish. And instead of being hurt mentally, physically by synthetics and things that are going to harm you and not really let you get to where you need to go, by visualizing and doing the right thing, your body will just, it flourishes. I mean, I see that in myself, and I'm on my way to a healthier life and achieving things that I didn't even achieve when I was in synthetics.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every moment you invest in negativity, every moment that you invest in being angry, every moment that you invest in being stressful is a moment that takes away from your sense of well-being, and it takes your body like hours to recover from it.
Yeah.
But if you laugh, it can benefit you for 24 hours. I mean, if you're positive, a smile on your face can actually help you be a healthier person. You know, so just start with telling yourself that you don't want to be stressed out over things, that you are going to make the plans in your life to make your life less stressful, less negative, that you can actually move on to become a glass half full type person and not look at the glass half empty as maybe you were conditioned by your parents or by outside influences. Again, outside influences mean nothing to you. They only the only thing that matters is what you think about yourself.
Well, I guess that's all for tonight. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Tia. And thank you, team. I mean, yeah, I know where I got Tia from.
Mm-hmm.
And all of you who have been watching and continue to watch. We just want to continue to spread light and love and health and just, make things right. The things that we made wrong for a while, we want to make right. And, so that's all we got. But
What we got for this week? What are you making for?
I don't know yet.
The entree.
I just go and do. I haven't thought about much yet. The creative juices are kicking in a little bit.
We're kind of like in the throes of like how we should shop for our food, because we like going to the co-op because they have more organic food there. But then during the winter months, their selection isn't that great.
Yeah.
And then going to Walmart, which has organic food, but also has the non-organic stuff,
Right.
which is tempting to buy because it's cheaper.
Right.
So we end up like wanting to maybe budget. So, I think what we're going to do, though, what we've decided is that we're going to do more shopping at Walmart during the winter months.
Right.
And then as the summertime, springtime harvest starts happening, farmers market opens up,
Yeah.
then we can actually, get more organic stuff and they'll have more selection. But
I think Chris said something else.
yep, it was a pleasure listening to y'all.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
But yeah, it really is important. What we put into our bodies is not just, anything. It's fuel, but it's also information for us, for ourselves to be able to read and then interpret and then give us what we need for our own health.
It's a happy balance, and that whole saying, "You are what you eat," is very true. And it's body, mind, and spirit. Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch us next week for some more interesting health and great wellness stuff, and might start bringing in some positive information for our families in the LGBT community. We'll see.
Oh, are you gonna already do that?
Ending. Oh yeah, I'm just.
You're gonna share that already?
No, I'm just.
Because don't we do our clothes?
Yes, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night, folks. Mwah. Take care.